Hello, everybody. This is Miss Kopak. So today we're going to read Chapter 6 in 26 Fairmount Avenue. So make sure you have your book in your packet and feel free to pause the video at any time if you need to. So a little bit of background knowledge for you. In this chapter of 26 Fairmount Avenue, Tommy's going to be talking about the backyard project. Remember, his dad mentioned that a few chapters ago. And so, a yard that hasn't been taken care of very well might look something like this. It's going to have lots of tall weeds growing. And so you don't want those things in your yard because it can kind of keep your grass and the plants that you do want uh, to grow, it will keep them from growing. So today we might use like weed whackers or lawn mowers to get rid of these things, but people didn't have those machines back in the 1930s. So they would have to get rid of these a different way. You're also going to see the word burlap bags. And these are bags made out of burlap. And burlap is a very thick, heavy material. It's very sturdy. It's really good for holding really heavy things. So lots of times when I've seen burlap bags, they might be holding like apples and potatoes, things that are going to get heavy when they're placed into a bag. You'll also see the word plow. So plow is when we turn up the soil. We're trying to make it nice and smooth, get rid of any rocks that might be in the ground. So in this photograph, you see a farmer is using a tractor to do that. And you'll also see the word contraption. Contraption is a type of machine, and it could be any machine. So in this photograph, the men are holding onto a contraption, and the contraption is being pulled by a horse. So their contraption might be helping to plow the field. It might be helping to make the soil nice and smooth. All right, go ahead and open up to chapter 6. It's on page 37, and you can read along with me. It says, "Now it was time to start the backyard project. The first thing we had to do was to burn off all the stuff that was growing there. It was a Saturday, so Buddy and I weren't at school, and our friends and neighbors came to help. Carol Crane came too. It was a sunny day with no wind blowing. That's very important, my dad told us. Why? I asked. Well, if it's windy, the fire could spread and the house might burn down. I sure didn't want that to happen. Okay, my dad said, let's begin. All right, kids, my mom said, stand back out of the way. Now we're on the next page. My dad, Mr. Tony Nesci, Mr. Johnny Papalo, Mr. Crane, and a bunch of other people stood around all three sides of the field with old brooms, buckets of water, and wet burlap bags. My mom stood holding a hose attached to the one water faucet that worked. Everyone was ready. They lit the fire at the edges, and it blazed right up. They wet their brooms and put out the flames around the outside of the circle. They did such a good job keeping the flames low that the whole fire went out. Try again, Joe, someone called to my dad. This time he lit the fire in the middle, and it caught and burned bright and strong. Everyone shouted, "Hooray!" But then the smoke started to get in people's eyes. They ran from the edges. Suddenly, the fire was really big. Everyone was shouting and banging the flames with wet brooms and burlap bags. Brooms caught fire. Burlap bags caught fire. The smoke got thicker. Quick, Floss, my dad shouted. The hose, the hose. Buddy, turn on the faucet, Mom shouted. Water streamed out of the hose. Wet down the house, Uncle Charles yelled. My mom did. Put out the flames, Mrs. Florence Neshy shouted. My mom aimed the hose at the fire. Now we're on page 40. She kept squirting water all over the place until the fire was out. What a mess! The weeds and grasses were black and smoking. So were the people. Everyone had black, sooty faces and smoky clothes. And everyone, except my mom, was soaking wet. Look what you've done to us, Mr. Tony Neshy said. Well, I saved the house, didn't I? Mom said, laughing. She sure did, and I was glad. Can you imagine having to start all over again? No, thank you. With the backyard all burned down, my dad hired an old Italian man who had a horse and a plow. It took a few days for the man to plow the backyard. It was fun to watch. Rocks kept popping up, and my dad saved them so he could use them later to build the wall in front of the house. After the yard was plowed, the old man attached a contraption made out of chains to the horse where the plow had been. He and the horse pulled the contraption along the ground to make it smooth and flat. Back and forth they went, back and forth. It looked pretty good until the next day. So that's the end of the chapter, and it sounds like something might be happening in the next chapter with their yard. So go ahead and get your packet, open it to chapter 6, and you're going to use your book to help you to answer the questions. So question number 1 says, why was it important to start the backyard project on a day that wasn't windy? A, the fire could burn down the house. B, wind could cause the backyard to be dusty. C, Buddy and Tommy wouldn't be at school. D, the kids wanted to go to the backyard fire. Number 2, what happened the first time the family tried to start the fire? A, the fire went out. B, the fire burned the house down. C, the brooms caught fire. Or D, the fire burned out of control. Number 3, from this line in the text, look what you've done to us, Mr. Tony Neshy said. The reader can tell, A, Mr. Neshy was happy Tommy's mother put out the fire. B, Mr. Neshy was not happy that Tommy's mother sprayed him with a water hose. C, Tommy thought it was funny that his mother put out the fire. Or D, Tommy's mother thought Mr. Neshy was on fire. And the last one. Why were the family members and neighbors holding wet brooms and burlap bags? A, they were cleaning. B, they were recycling them. C, they help a fire grow. Or D, they help keep a fire small and controlled. So thank you for reading with me today. I'll see you next time when we read chapter 7. Toodaloo, kangaroos.